hope they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go yourself.
But
go yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
well, let me ask you then.
That's how I feel.
Can we all just take a moment to appreciate the glorious use of free speech here? Elon Musk truly is the savior of this generation.
Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if at the point at which you lose free speech, it doesn't come back.
I think the issue some people have is that a lot of people were brought back. I mean, some people were brought back who were previously banned for spreading things like QAnon conspiracies. You have people like Andrew Tate who were brought back, who were previously banned for things like hate speech. Do you think you prioritize freedom of speech over misinformation and hate speech?
Well, you know, who's to say that something is misinformation? Who's the arbiter of that? Is it the BBC?
You're literally asking me?
Yes.
Well, no, you
Who
are
is the arbiter?
You are the arbiter on Twitter, because you own Twitter.
Yes, I'm saying who is to say that one person's misinformation is another person's information? At the point at which you say that there is this is misinformation, like who is going to decide that?
But you accept that misinformation can be dangerous, that it can cause real-world harms, that it can potentially cause...
Yes, and the point I'm trying to make is that the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false. Do you agree that that has occurred?
I'm quite sure the BBC have said things before that turn out to not be true.
Correct.
In its, whatever it is, 100-year history, I'm quite sure.
Yes. Even if you aspire to be accurate, there are times when you will not be.
We've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
what hate
that
speech are you talking about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
But just a personal anecdote, like what do you? I don't.
Personally, my For You, I would see I get more of that kind of content, yeah, personally. But I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally?
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
Can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that For You feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you said
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second. You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen the For You hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying...
Then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet. And yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well...
That's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What I claimed was... there are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not, I mean, right, and
literally
you can look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know there's hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time.
Wow.
COVID misinformation. You changed the COVID misinformation
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
It's amazing how asking direct questions is all it takes to completely dismantle almost every single media narrative. You don't just walk into an interview with Elon Musk without being prepared. That is just a recipe for disaster.
You don't see, I mean, in terms of when you're going to engage. I mean, for example, even today, Elon, you tweeted this thing about George Soros. Well, I'm looking for it because I want to make sure I quote it properly. But, I mean, you know what you wrote. But you basically...
I said it reminds me of Magneto. It's just like, calm down, people. This is not like made a federal case out of it.
You also, you said he wants to erode the very fabric of civilization, and Soros hates humanity. Like, when you do something like that, do you
I think that's true. That's my opinion.
Okay, but why share it? Why share it? Especially, because, I mean, why share it when people who buy Teslas may not agree with you, advertisers on Twitter may not agree with you? Why not just say, hey, I think this. You can tell me, we can talk about it over there, you can tell your friends, but why share it widely?
I mean, this is freedom of speech. I'm allowed to say what I want.
You absolutely are, but I'm trying to understand why you do, because you have to know it's got it puts you in the middle of the partisan divide in the country. It makes you a lightning rod for criticism. I mean, do you like that? People today saying he's an anti-Semite. I don't think you are.
No, I'm definitely. I'm like a pro-Semite, if anything.
I believe that probably is the case.
Yes.
But why would you even introduce the idea then that would be the case?
I mean, look, we don't want to make this a George Soros interview.
No, God no. I don't want to at all. But what I'm trying even came up though in the annual meeting. I mean, do your tweets hurt the company? Are there Tesla owners who say, I don't agree with his political position and I know it because he shares so much of it? Or are there advertisers on Twitter that Linda Yaccarino will come and say, you got to stop, man. Or, I can't get these ads because of some of the things you tweet.
I'm reminded of the scene in The Princess Bride. Great movie.
Great movie.
Where he confronts the person who killed his father. And he says, offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
So you just don't care. You want to share what you have to say.
I'll say what I want to say, and if the consequence of that is losing money, so be it.
Elon's attitude is what we all love to see. He's not worried about stepping on toes or losing money. He'll say what he wants, consequences be damned. It's refreshing to see someone prioritize honesty over pleasing everyone. If only more CEOs had his guts instead of bowing to every whim of their customers.
I mean,
well,
it's sort of like the nameless issue.
It happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, Xavier might commit suicide if he did.
That was a lie right from the outset. No reliable clinician ever believed that. There was never any evidence for that. And also, If there's a higher suicide rate, the reason is because of the underlying depression and anxiety and not because of the gender dysphoria. And every goddamn clinician knows that too. And they're too cowardly to come out and say it. Right? And so and then we end up in exactly, when I saw that lie start to propagate, it just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It's like, I see. So you're telling parents that unless they agree to this radical transformation that their children are going to die, and you think that's moral, and you think that's true. That is so pathological that it's almost incomprehensible. I can't imagine anything worse. I can't imagine a therapist doing anything worse than that, or sitting by idly and remaining silent while his colleagues are doing it. It's pathetic.
It's incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
It won't stop till that happens.
Yeah.
It'll just go underground. Puberty blockers are being accessed online by kids all the time through non-medical channels. So, yeah,
Right.
It's not going to stop. Yeah.
Elon's honesty about his daughter is eye-opening. He believes the media brainwashed her and feels tricked into signing off on her transition. It's tough to hear, but he's right. How easily can the media twist things? Kids everywhere are being taught that they can be whatever gender they choose to be, and that's sad. If only more parents did not have to fear getting canceled by those who claim to be woke.
The woke mind, yes, it's the name you gave to that.
woke mind
that
virus,
illness,
yeah.
woke mind illness. What's that virus?
Yeah, so
It's coming to Europe. I have to advise you, huh?
yes, well, this is not something you should import from America. Please don't import the woke mind virus. It's bad. Essentially, that to summarize maybe the woke mind virus, it consists of creating very, very divisive identity politics. So it actually amplifies mind virus, in my view, amplifies racism, amplifies, frankly, sexism, and all the isms. And while claiming to do the opposite, it actually divides people and makes them sort of hate each other.
Elon really nailed it with his woke mind virus take. It's created a divisive identity crisis that's tearing people apart. Instead of uniting and focusing on what really matters, it feels like everyone's more focused on labels and pronouns than real connections. If only the woke crowd realized that their agenda is just driving more wedges between everyone.
The woke mind virus ate your brain. Do you know what the term woke actually means?
It's come to mean a lot of things.
But what originally it was meant to mean. It's just being aware of inequities in society and being aware of facts and history.
Yeah, I think it's come to be. I think being aware of inequities in society is fine, of course, but trying to blame everything trying to make everything a race issue is, I think, divisive and corrosive to society.
Even as it relates to trans issues, which is what I'm.
Yeah, race or gender or whatever.
You think that society blames everything on racism now?
It blames a lot of things on it, and yeah.
You think that's unfair?
Yeah.
Why?
I think we should not make this a constant subject. I think we need to move on. I think we should treat people like people.
You don't agree that this country was founded on racism and founded on slavery and in many ways inequities? That still continue on to this day?
I think every country at that time, and I think even today, was extremely racist. Every country. Obviously, slavery was present in about half of this country. Was not present in the North. There was racism for sure, but I think we want to look to the future rather than the past, and instead of engaging in constant rehashing of the past, because in fact, if you look at history, if you study history broadly, everyone was a slave. Everyone.
Yes. Well, not everyone was a slave.
No,
but,
everyone was a slave.
Okay, but
we are all descended from slaves.
yeah. Well,
All of us.
yeah.
It's just a question of when. Was it more recent or less recent? That's it.
right.
But what future do we want? Is this something we want to make part of our constant dialogue forever, or do we want to say, like, let's just move on and treat everyone, according to just who they are as an individual?
I agree with you with that. That's the ideal. But what the evidence shows is that that's not what's actually in practice.
I think we're doing better than anywhere else.
That's true. I agree with that. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean a lot to a whole lot of people who aren't able to take advantage of the opportunities that you were able to take advantage of, simply because the color of your skin.
What advantages did my color of my skin give me?
Well, there's an ease that you have in society that many people of color don't. You were able to come to this country voluntarily. There are many people who were not able to come to the country voluntarily. There are people who came here as
very difficult
slaves.
for me to come here.
And there is a legacy of slavery that still continues on. There's a legacy of racism that still continues on in this country. That's undeniable.
Well, if we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away. If we keep making that the central thing, it will never go away.
Well, why do you believe that?
I think I'm just making a simple statement of fact. So I think we want to get away from making everything a race or a gender or whatever issue, and just treat people like individuals.
Do you have any desire to understand what many people of color and even trans people, how they feel about this country and how they're treated in this country? If they say and they believe that they are treated a certain way in this country, why don't you believe them?
You cannot have a situation where someone is a self-described victim, and they just get to be that because that's how they feel.
I think that does happen in some cases, but not all cases. And I think that not understanding the history of the country, I think, is a real shame. Look,
We should understand the history of the country and other countries.
I've had incredible opportunities as a person of color.
Right.
But I've also
You're doing very well.
But I've also been discriminated against, and I know that I have. And I know that that's real. And for someone to say that that isn't happening, I should just move forward and not think about that and ignore the past, is insulting.
I'm not saying it. Don, you keep putting words in my mouth. I'm not saying it's.
I didn't say that you said it.
I'm saying that we want to. We as a country should move beyond questions of race and gender, and we should treat people like individuals and base our opinions on them on the, their character and their skills.
Elon nailed it again. Woke culture just loves to blame everything on race and trans issues, holding us hostage to the past. It's like some people can't see beyond their identity to treat others as individuals. If they focused less on labels, maybe we could actually move forward together.
So I think a lot of people thought when you bought Twitter that this is kind of an outlier. Like, what doesn't fit with these other things you're doing? I never thought that. Because I think you're dealing with big civilizational issues and problems, and I was right on your page. I think Twitter is one of them. I mean, you have talked about this woke mind virus.
Yes.
In really apocalyptic terms.
Yeah.
You should explain why you don't think it's hyperbole to say things like it's pushing civilization towards suicide. First of all, what is the woke mind virus? And if we don't deal with this, nothing else can get done. Tell me why you think that.
Yeah, so I think we need to be very cautious about anything that is anti-meritocratic and anything that is that results in the suppression of free speech. So, those are two of the aspects of the woke mind virus that I think are very dangerous. Is that it's often anti-meritocratic. You can't question things. Even the questioning is bad. So, another way to almost synonymous would be cancel culture. And obviously, people have tried to cancel you many times.
Many times.
Yeah, I mean,
every week.
Yeah.
From left and right. I've had it from both sides.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. People, you and I are both like in that little group of people. Maybe it's a bigger group now.
Yeah.
Who are called conservative, who haven't really changed. I don't think of you as a conservative.
I'm definitely. Yeah, like I at least think of myself as a moderate, so, I mean, at least I've spent a massive amount of my life energy building sustainable energy, electric vehicles and batteries and solar and stuff to help save the environment. That's not a, It's not exactly far right.
Elon really laid it out with Bill Maher about Twitter's anti-American vibe. It's wild how it supported cancel culture and silenced anyone who didn't toe the woke line. Free speech took a back seat while the platform pushed its own agenda. But look at him now. He's doing a great job turning things around. Finally, free speech is getting a chance again. Maybe we can have real conversations instead of just people repeating what they've been told.
We don't know what the heck is going on. Why is one tweet doing well? Why is another tweet not? Is it the algorithm? Did someone manually intervene? Why are some accounts banned with no recourse, apparently? The reality is that Twitter at this point, has a very far left bias, and I would classify myself as a moderate, and neither Republican nor Democrat. And in fact, I have voted overwhelmingly for Democrats historically, overwhelmingly. Like I'm not sure. I might never have voted for a Republican, just to be clear.
Right.
Now this election, I will.
Elon's reasoning for voting Republican is crystal clear. He's calling out Twitter's leftist agenda and the inconsistent censorship. It's like they picked favorites instead of promoting real dialogue. No wonder he was ready to switch sides. Sometimes you have to stand up against the bias to restore some balance in the conversation.
People here are from many different countries. You're going interplanetary, but you're not going international. When are you going to hire people from other countries than the US?
Yeah, so I think people are a bit confused about this. Unfortunately, this is not up to us. So the U.S. government regulations, they make getting a job in the U.S. hard as it is, just getting a job visa hard as it is. But if you're working on rocket technology, that's considered an advanced weapons technology. So even a normal work visa isn't sufficient unless you get a special permission from the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of State. I want to be clear, this is not out of some desire of SpaceX to just hire people with green cards. It's because we're not allowed to do anything else. I think this is not a wise policy for the U.S. because there's so many talented people all around the world that we would love to have work at our company, but unless they can somehow get a green card, we can't. We're legally prevented from hiring anyone. But for example, this is not the case at Tesla. At Tesla, we're about a quarter of our engineering team is from outside the U.S. and maybe even 30% because we don't have the ITAR restriction. I really wish we could do more. It's just our hands are tied.
Elon just schooled the woke crowd on SpaceX's hiring. He pointed out that U.S. regulations make it nearly impossible for foreigners to get jobs in advanced fields like rocket science. But of course, facts don't matter when you're pushing a narrative. It's easier to blame him than face the truth. They can't even cheer anymore because they've been proven wrong.
Can we talk about the Great Replacement Theory now? Some of the things that you post, the Great Replacement Theory, you claim that Democrats, President Biden's immigration plan to open up the border, you said that the president is getting, and Democrats are doing it to get more votes. Undocumented immigrants cannot vote in federal elections, so how is that possible?
Right. Well, you're conflating two things. One is Great Replacement Theory. The other is, which I don't subscribe to that. I'm simply saying that there is an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat. The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters. If you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House. This also applies to the Electoral College. So you say, well, this also applies to electing the president. because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to balance that, is so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there.
My understanding is that there would be, that the Democrats would lose approximately 20 seats in the House if illegals were not counted in the census. And that's also 20 less electoral votes for president. So the illegals absolutely do affect the who controls the House and who controls the presidency. It does not affect the Senate.
Elon just laid it out about Biden's border policy, letting in more immigrants. It's almost like the Democrats are banking on their votes. Elon sees through their games. It's not about compassion, it's about creating a new voting base. They are taking advantage of the numbers of immigrants to boost their level of supporters. Who knew immigration could be a political strategy?
I think The Onion has done some extremely funny stuff over time. It just seems to have been, in recent years, somewhat infected by the woke mind virus. So that just makes everything less funny. Yeah. Woke mind virus is a world without humor.
Why do you think wokeness is so destructive?
It is a prevalent mind virus and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization. I mean, generally, I think we should be aiming for like a positive society, and that it should be okay to be humorous. We should like wokeness basically wants to make comedy illegal, which is not cool. At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously seen that from the left, just ourselves. The left is almost this religion now, where they're so serious and they believe what they believe with such intensity that for us to make fun of them, for them it's like you're making fun of God or salvation.
Elon is definitely spot on with this. Wokeness really is the comedy killer. It's like the woke mind virus decided humor is too risky for their fragile feelings. Comedy should be about pushing boundaries, not tiptoeing around the latest leftist agenda. It's no wonder laughter is fading. Who can thrive when humor's under constant attack?
What percentage of your staff did you fire at Twitter? One of the great business stories of the year.
I think we're about 20% of the original size.
So 80% left.
Yes.
So.
I mean, a lot of people voluntarily.
Sure, but it's 80% are gone from the day you took over.
That's correct. Yes.
So how do you run the company with only 20% of the staff?
It turns out you don't need all that many people to run Twitter.
But 80%? That's a lot.
Yes. If you're not trying to run some sort of glorified activist organization and you're not care that much about censorship, then you can really let go of a lot of people, it turns out.
How many others, without naming names, but I had dinner with somebody who runs a big company recently who said, I'm really inspired by Elon. And I said, the free speech stuff? He goes, no, the firing the staff stuff. Yeah. How many other CEOs have come to you to talk about this?
I spend a lot of time at work, so it's not like I'm meeting with lots of people. They see what actions I've taken, but I think we just had a situation at Twitter where it was absurdly overstaffed. So it wasn't. You look at say what does it really take to operate Twitter? Most of what we're talking about here is a group text service at scale. How many people are really needed for that? And if you look at what has been the product development over time with Twitter, and you years versus product improvements, and it's like a pretty flat line. So what are they doing? It took a year to add an edit button that doesn't work most of the time. I mean, I feel like there's a comedy situation here. You're not making cars, it's very difficult to make cars or get rockets to orbit. So, the real question is how did it get so absurdly overstaffed? This is insane. So, anyway, and it's clearly working. In fact, I think it's working better than ever. We've increased the responsiveness of the system by, in some cases, over 80%. We're trying to make Twitter the most trusted place on the internet, the least untrustworthy place on the internet. I don't think anyone should trust the internet, but maybe we can make Twitter.
Elon just exposed Twitter's activism problem. Firing 80% of the staff? Smart move. Who needs a team more focused on censorship than actual news? It's like clearing out the clutter from a leftist echo chamber. Sometimes you just need to get rid of the noise to hear the truth.
Which was, independent of which side you agree with, it's still very entertaining.
So what, and I'm sure tomorrow will be entertaining, we're all going to be tuned into that, but when you approach an interview like that, and obviously a really important election like the one that is coming up, can you just talk a little bit about what are the key issues that really matter for you at this pivotal moment?
You mean matter for me as an individual, or? Matter
for you as an individual in terms of who leads the country, but also, more broadly than that, for the country and for your businesses. I mean, can you give your sense of where the real issues lie here?
Well, I've said publicly that my preference, and I think would be the preference of most Americans, is really to have someone fairly normal in office. I think we'd all be quite happy with that, actually. I think someone that is representative of the moderate views that I think most of the country holds in reality.
Elon's calling for a normal leader, and it's about time. It's hard to believe we've settled for political puppets who pander to the left. A president who actually gets what most Americans want? Now that's a concept that would drive the Democrats crazy. Keep pushing for reality, Elon.
We delete things if they are illegal.
But these have been up there for a while.
Are they illegal?
No, they're not illegal, but they're hateful, and they can lead to violence. As I just read to you, the shooters, in all of these mass shootings, attributed social media to radicalizing.
So Don, you love censorship, is what you're saying?
No, I don't love censorship.
Then why are you asking?
I believe in moderation, but I don't believe in
censorship. Moderation is a propaganda word for censorship.
But don't you think free speech is one thing, right? Or not,
Look, if something's illegal, we're going to take it down. If it's not illegal, then we're putting our thumb on the scale and we're being censors.
You're putting your thumb on the scale for moderating hate speech. I mean, you don't put out child pornography. That's not...
It's illegal.
Some people would say that's considered censorship.
I literally said, if something is legal, okay, we will obviously remove it.
Elon's taking on Don Lemon like a boss. Moderation is just a fancy word for censorship. Who knew? While Don's worried about hate speech, Elon's out here advocating for real free speech. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Elon's loaded with truth and ready to fire it.
Why doesn't Facebook do this? I know that Zuckerberg has said, and I take him at face value, that he... I do actually in this way, that he is a kind of old-fashioned liberal who doesn't like to censor. He has, but why wouldn't a company like that take the stand that you have taken, which is pretty rooted in American traditional political custom, for free speech?
My understanding is that Zuckerberg spent $400 million in the last election, nominally in a get-out-the-vote campaign, but really fundamentally in support of Democrats. Is that accurate or not accurate?
That is accurate. Yes.
Does that sound unbiased to you?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Elon's right about Zuckerberg. Why promote free speech when you can just cater to the Democrats? It's like selling ice cream in winter. Who needs it? Maybe Zuckerberg should take notes from Elon. Real freedom means letting everyone say whatever crazy thing they want. If only the others had half his guts. Who knew free speech could be this entertaining? Love it.
Yeah, well, I came here at least in part today to find out what the hell your religion was. So I want to end with this, if you don't mind. So I also asked you why you trust yourself in relationship to AI, and you said, well, I don't entirely, and so I thought that's a good answer. But, I mean, more broadly, like, you have a lot of admirers. There's a lot of people who are hoping that you're the guy that you, what would you say? That you're the guy who can do what you say you're going to do. And there's lots of evidence that you can. It's like, you think it's reasonable for people to trust you?
Well, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't say trust me entirely, but I think on balance, my track record suggests that I'm fairly trustworthy.
What elements of it do you think suggest that particularly?
Well, I've built a lot of companies that have done useful things.
Yeah, you've built a lot of impossible companies that have done useful things.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an existence proof of sorts.
Yeah, and
do you accept the validity of entrepreneurial striving as an indicator of ethical conduct, which I think that's valid.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to recruit great people to work with me to build these companies. I think if I was like a really bad person, they wouldn't want to work with me. You know, I think like one of the tests for assessing someone's character is to look at the character of their friends and their associates.
Yeah.
And while people can put up a mask themselves for their character, their friends and associates will not.
Yeah.
And so you can judge a person's character by their friends and associates, and to some degree by their enemies.
Right.
You know, if evil people hate you, well, you might be doing something right.
Elon's vision for Mars is truly inspiring. Unlike the woke crowd that promotes conformity, he values different ideas and actually gets things done. Trusting his track record is easy. He creates jobs and builds innovative companies. Imagine if more leaders focused on progress instead of just pushing the latest social trends.
I think there's something to be said that America needs a strong leader, and where you have the perception of strength. Now, you have to admire that Trump, after getting shot with blood streaming down his face, it could have been a second shooter, who knows? Nonetheless, was fist pumping, fight.
Yep.
After being shot.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is not.
He's an ornery bastard. And he's funny too.
Yes, and he's brave. He has courage. This is instinctual courage.
Yeah.
It's not calculated. It's not some arranged event. It's in the moment.
Elon makes a solid point here. A strong leader like Trump doesn't back down, even when the going gets tough. Unlike those woke warriors who freeze at the first hint of discomfort, Trump stands firm. Maybe if more people focused on leadership instead of virtue signaling, we'd actually solve some problems.
So freedom of speech is absolutely fundamental to a good future. And yeah, that's the reason for acquiring Twitter and trying to just making it a free speech platform. I think very important to just the future of civilization.
If Elon, one of the richest people in the world, has to take time out of his busy schedule to get up a podium and remind us that we are heading down the wrong path and we need to redirect, that just tells us how far gone we are.
Everyone say hi to Leslie, our newest hire.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you here, ma'am.
Yo, I isn't a man.
Whatever, chick.
Please don't call me a chick.
Oh, well,
My preferred pronouns are she and her. Okay, so who's next?
Yeah. Pronouns. We don't share those here.
Oh, really? So how's anyone supposed to know that I is a girl?
Well, that's kind of obvious.
Wait, did you just assume my gender?
Yes.
Oh, yeah? Okay, wait until HR finds out about this.
Okay, you know what? I do want to share my pronouns. They are you're and fired.
What?
Karen, you gotta go.
Well, I need this job.
Well, when you go woke, you go broke. So now you is fired. Get lost.
You're fired. Elon, you're crazy.
All right, let's try to relax. So let's start by dancing to some music. Hit it. Donald, get in. Can we avoid politics in these meetings? Well, employee 279, you is fired.
You're fired.
When you want to play the pronoun game, but you forget that the other person is your CEO. This is a lesson to everyone that when you go woke, you go broke. Elon did us all a favor by putting her out of a job. She can go look for a job somewhere else that gives a damn about her pronouns.
What has it been like? You've owned X for a year now.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and have a dream that you didn't do it? And your life is infinitely easier?
Well, it's certainly a recipe for trouble, I suppose, or contention.
What was it ultimately that led you to make the decision to do it?
I mean, this is going to sound somewhat melodramatic, but I was worried about that it was having a corrosive effect on civilization. That it was just having a bad impact. And I think part of it is that it's where it was located, which is downtown San Francisco. And while I think San Francisco is a beautiful city, and we should really fight hard to kind of right the ship of San Francisco, if you've walked around downtown San Francisco, right near the FK Twitter headquarters, it's a zombie apocalypse. I mean, it's rough. Have you been in that area?
Not lately. No.
Yeah.
I've heard.
It's crazy.
I've heard it's crazy. I've heard you really can't believe it until you actually go there.
You can't believe it until you go there. So now you have to say, well, what philosophy led to that outcome? And that philosophy was being piped to Earth. So, a philosophy that would be ordinarily quite niche and geographically constrained, so that the fallout area would be limited, was effectively given an information weapon, information technology weapon to propagate what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth. And the outcome of that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization.
And it's not just propagating the mind virus, but suppressing any opposing viewpoints.
Yes. Well, in order for the virus to propagate, it must suppress opposing viewpoints. So,
Elon's reason for buying X is spot on. He recognized that the platform was spreading harmful ideas and corrupting our culture, with all these woke people fighting over pronouns, killing babies, and forming rainbow clubs. They were running the society. By taking X over, he's fighting back against the mind virus that threatens our values and society.
Right? Now, another thing that you are talking about is you sincerely think that we should go to Mars, like that men and women should go to Mars.
Yeah.
Why do we want to go to Mars? It's uninhabitable.
It's very inhospitable. That's true.
It is. Like, you have to be in like domes and everything, and you're just breathing.
Initially. Yes.
Really? How long before we could turn Mars into someplace where we could live?
It is a fixer-upper of a planet. At first, you're going to have to live in transparent domes, but eventually...
Yes, we're going to be huffing each other's stank.
Yeah, but eventually you can transform Mars into an Earth-like planet.
How would you do that?
You'd warm it up. Just warm it up. If you
with
want,
a blanket or with what? How would you warm Mars up? You know, it's a long way away from the sun.
There's the fast way and the slow way.
Okay. Give me the fast way.
The fast way is drop thermonuclear weapons over the poles.
You're a supervillain. That's what a supervillain does.
Yeah.
Elon's big idea for warming Mars? Just drop some nukes on the poles. Forget fancy science, let's just blow stuff up. Classic Elon. Always thinking outside the box, or maybe just outside the planet. You can just see the so-called environmentalists foaming at the mouth from his response.
We must protect free speech, and free speech only matters, it's only relevant when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like, because obviously speech that you like is, that's easy. The thing about censorship is that, sure, for those who would advocate it, just remember, at some point, that will be turned on you.
Elon nails it on free speech. He understands that censorship only leads to more censorship. He knows that protecting diverse opinions is important, and it's refreshing to see someone stand up for our right to speak freely without fear of backlash. Unlike the so-called woke people who can't stand when someone has a different opinion from theirs.
You talk a lot about wokeness and the woke mind virus and all that. Do you feel like that's what was driving those kinds of decisions here, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, around here, it's not about whether you had had some of the woke Kool-Aid. You're swimming in the woke Kool-Aid. It's like, it's like a fish doesn't see the water, it's swimming in it.
Yeah. Right.
It just seems normal. Like if you're in the cult, it's normal. The thing is, like, there's actually so much material. Like there's God knows how many lines of Slack, for example.
Right. Yeah.
This company ran on Slack, so it's like one massive group text situation. So it's a lot of material. Not that many emails. Emails mostly were for people coming from outside communications. And then there was that weird government portal that destroyed everything after 2 weeks, which doesn't sound legal. But yeah.
He is open and doesn't shy away from the truth. This is a man who bought an entire app in his bid to preserve free speech despite it making him a target. This is a man who everyone should aspire to be like. Which moment of poetic justice served up by Elon Musk did you enjoy the most? Share your favorites in the comments, and remember, if you enjoy watching people hilariously stumble over their own beliefs, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.